When I resumed in earnest work on a novel I had long contemplated, my older daughters, Susie and Clara, had already grown out of toddlerhood, and Jean was just entering that stage of life. Now that I had these three and Livy as a target audience for it, the self-imposed push was upon me to finish my book about mistaken identity in medieval times between the scion of a family who infested a palace as its chief inhabitants and the son of another family who lived in vastly more humble surroundings. It was in 1880, I believe, when I put The Prince and the Pauper on the front burner. To make a long, drawn-out story less tedious, the thing was published in 1881 and proved a success. I say this mainly because my target audience received it favorably. It was, at the time at least, their favorite book of mine. That goes for Livy as well as our girls. It was their favorite book of mine, which gave it special meaning to me. Livy and the girls even surprised me with a rendition of some of its scenes in a neighborhood play they staged for me by surprise at the end of one of my long lecture tours. On that occasion, when I returned home to a practically empty house and was thoroughly ignored by the few who were there, all of whom seemed to be doing their best to avoid me and frantically rushing off first to one place and then another, I was at first disappointed and even considerably annoyed. So when I was soon called to the Warners' home next door, I didn't want to go. I didn't want to go anywhere. I wanted to stay home and fume and vent. Nevertheless, I went, but not in a state of mind conducive to being a pleasant guest. What a surprise it was when I arrived there to see a makeshift stage and the cast, my daughters and the neighborhood children in their period pieces, festooned with regalia fit for a king, or a prince and his court at any rate. Livy had adapted my story for the stage, and the children had worked hard on learning their parts and put on a command performance for me as a tribute to my work, which proves that the initial appearance of a thing can be deceiving. I am so happy that I wrote that book for them, because it was for them that I wrote it primarily. The tribute they gave it, and thus me, by calling it my best book, as Susie did in her diary, and showing their love for it in action as they did, is the critical acclaim that has always meant the most to me.